Jon Summers is the motoring historian. He was a company car thrashing technology sales rep that turned into a fairly inept sports bike rider. Hailing from California, he collects cars and bikes built with plenty of cheap and fast, and not much reliable. On his show, he gets together with various co-hosts to talk about new and old cars, driving, motorbikes, motor racing, and motoring travel.
Good day, good morning, good afternoon. It is Jon Summers, the motoring historian. And after a 6-month absence, I'm sure you audience members were missing him, we have Mark Gammie with us out of a long, dark COVID tunnel, Mark.
Yeah. That's that big hello to the listener. Lovely to be back.
Yeah, it's Eric editing. He's the listener.
nice to virtually not meet him.
So given we're now into 2025, what better time to do a review of 2024? And given all my episodes are backed up like a sort of constipated bloke who's eaten too much curry last night kind of thing, it probably won't be released until February. So, everything we say will be completely out of date because we're always so topical and punctual and on form with it all. So a review of 2024. And as you know, Gammie, I always love to begin, or in recent pods, I've taken to beginning with a little story about an activity that I've participated in. So I'm going to begin this time and help you settle into the mood again with a story about that black Honda CBR race bike that I have. Did you know it's back from the dead?
Only because you mentioned it to me yesterday, but no, I didn't know formally, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's sat in the corner over by the filing cabinet for probably about 5 years without even moving. And then last summer, Ollie was like, it'll never go. And I went, it'll just start on the button. And he went, it won't. And I went, it will. And wheeled it out. And guess what? I never would have said that if it wasn't a Honda, but it went. Right? It fired up. It ran like shit on the bad fuel, but like it ran. Which is a lot to be said for a bike that's on carbs, right? It is a carbs bike. Although I do find that these race carbs do better with the ethanol fuel than the non-race carbs. But look, I'm not going to fall down that rat hole. I'm just going to tell you the story so we can get into the rest of the episode here. And the story is this. So the CBR works again. It had a bunch of fatty little things on it. And John called me and was like, I've kind of spent 3 days on this, which means that, the bill's a little bit more than I was probably anticipating, right? But, the reason I pay him to do it is because the bloke does such thorough work. So, if he tells you it's going to be 4 days, you just suck your teeth and wish you'd bought a better example in the first place. Or you don't, do you? I like buying the wrecks and I like supporting him in his business of, looking after motorcycles and flipping them in bloody San Francisco. I love the way that he's able to do that, and it's kind of like so I'm happy to support him, and of course it means that when you throw the leg over the bike, you know that it's going to work properly because he's thrown the leg over it before and has ridden it, and he's going to ride it not around the block in bloody second gear. He's actually going to ride it. So this is how I justify it. Anyway, so I paid him to bring the CBR back from the dead, and he called me and was like, dude, it kind of needs tires, and, I would feel better if it had the tires, and I won't bill you any extra time for it. It'll just be all part of the 3 days, and that'll be completely done. So, at that point, he's like, I've probably spent a week working on this bike, but I don't want to charge you any more money. I feel bad. So he rode it over and dropped it off, and then he went, this bike's had work done, hasn't it? And I went, yeah, I think it's had race cams in it because I've got the original cams. And he's like, yeah, but it's more than that. It's like it's a full race exhaust which has been tuned, and like I don't know what the carbs are, but they're clearly because it really pulls well. Now I've ridden, I ride the same route, like my little test route, and there's a point where you can open the throttle properly. And at that point where you open the throttle properly, I know how a litre bike feels versus a 750. I'm telling you, Gammie, for the first, up to about, 60 miles an hour, it is like a litre bike. There's something about the cams. It's got a big sprocket on the rear, something like that. It is a scalded cat at any legal speeds, right?
It's a 600 though, yeah?
And only in theory on the track do you notice that it's not got the oomph of a litre bike. Do you notice that the mid-range is a little flat in comparison? That's the first time I've ever felt that, obviously in a track scenario, professional driver only, right? Yeah. It certainly wasn't immediately after, as I first came up the hill with the throttle cracked open, and as I came over the crest of the hill, there was a big gust of wind, and it picked up the front of the bike and pointed me right at the scenery. Oh, man, it woke me up. It woke me up. I literally, because I had the throttle open and all the weight was on the rear tyre, it just moved the front of the bike across the road like a pencil on a, my word, love the sport bike.
You gotta love a sport bike. It is a proper hit in a way that anything with doors kind of can't be.
Anything with doors is just not thrilling in the same way. And this is one of the things about I'm lucky enough to have ridden in a proper high boy hot rod, 4-banger, but like open fender 29 Ford Roadster pickup. You know what it's like because you've driven a Caterham. The appeal of hot rods is the same as the appeal of Caterhams in every way. The simplicity, the basic, the honing, the form, and plus the fact that you're completely in touch with the car. You look down, you see the front wheel, you place it as you turn. That is epic. So the CBR lives again, and I very much enjoyed it. As you know, we really cater to our sponsors here. And one of the sponsors, which if you go to the Motoring Podcast website, you'll see that Eric's really gone to town with the sponsorship, is these guys, Auxito, who do these LED bulbs. And you might, like eagle-eyed listeners, it's probably just a fucking AI tool doing a scrape nowadays, isn't it? Yeah. It's certainly the AI tool will remember that in an earlier episode we talked about Auxito, and I said, I had a real need for them, and I told that story about crashing the Mustang off the road in the desert after a conference of yours in Vegas one day. Probably fucking 15 years ago now, but let's not worry about trying to hang a time on it. So since then, I've wanted to fit proper lights. These Auxito guys, they're proper lights. I watched Furious driving. He fitted them to his Miata. All the beard and slipper brigade were like, those lights are too bright. So I immediately thought I've got to fit them to my Mustang. So, and you might remember I was going to do this big challenge with them where I was going to, test the lights before and test the lights after and all of that. Well, it took me ages to organize that, but eventually I did it. And I took a photograph of the lights as, the light on the Mustang's headlights on dip beam. And then I took the Mustang's headlights on high beam. And I showed Ollie the photos and was like, can you tell the difference? And he went, no. Is this like some kind of spot the difference? And I went, well, one's high beam and one's dip beam. And he went, Now, it may have been because I had the car pointing down the hill and there were street lights. But the point is that car is not a good base case. The lights are shit on it, is what I'm saying. And I was bemoaning that to the producer. I feel like I'm the two Ronnies. Do you remember how Ronnie Corbett always used to do, the producer? I was chatting with the producer.
The producer said to me, he said, Ronnie, he said, first name terms, you see, Ronnie.
he said, I fitted the Auxito bulbs. They're good. I put them in my wife's Jetta or Passat or something, and they're good. He's like a VW Audi dude. He went, they're good. They're better than the factory ones. So there you have it, listener. There's a genuine test and a genuine endorsement and genuinely something that a bloke recommended you in the pub rather than these unreliable sources like Yelp or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's a discount. I think the code is Motoring Historian, but I'm not sure. It might be Motoring History, mightn't it? I should have known that before we came on air, but not to worry.
Edit in here.
The code is Motoring Historian, all in capitals. Motoring Historian. Well, music, Gammie. What music this episode?
You should do some banging trance.
Excellent. All right, send me a couple of samples and I'll do them. Move on to, matters of moment, as they used to call it in the motor magazines, which, it's like quite a good pun, isn't it? I guess I could have that section. I've subconsciously thought of this section as that, which is, which you might read as, depressing news about motoring, So I've two areas to talk about. One, in Britain, average speed checks are fucking everywhere. Suck balls.
Yeah, definitely.
And I had other examples, but I'm not going to dwell on this driving, dying a slow death by asphyxiation, which I feel that it is. I'm going to move to my next bullet, which is this. I could be mad about it, but I'm just not, because you can still go out and find it. And I feel like I personally am enjoying motoring more than ever, illustrated by my silly story about the CBR. I mean, I'm enjoying it more, and you can go out and look for it. And I don't mean that you need to, especially on sports bikes. I used to feel the need to ride really fast, and I just don't anymore now. I can really enjoy them just going out and staying within speed limits. So I feel like I am enjoying motoring more than ever. I feel like you can still go out and find it. You said earlier, you could, if you get up early enough, you're absolutely right. Or if you're ready to do stuff at night, and that's where Auxito, when the lights come in again, or where my original desire to have better lights came from, because you really can go out and cover some miles at night. And it is easier because there's not other distractions for your eyes. You are just looking for light. I feel like there's something in that.
Well, for real, yeah, and look, I mean, I think again, it's looking at things in a slightly orthodox way. I mean, it's forcing people out of cars. Look, on the one hand, does it make any sense for 90-something% of journeys to be when you leave the house? Do you take 4 suitcases with you? You don't, but you take 3 spare seats and a massive boot and a tin body wherever you go if you get in a car. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So I absolutely can understand trying to get us into smaller cars, but again, follow the logic through. Make people ride motorbikes. Yeah, and then there's way more room and way more people.
That's the antagonism, isn't there, that there is with cars at the moment, between wanting to be eco but wanting to be safe. Because wanting to be safe, that's why a Rivian weighs 8,000 pounds rather than a Range Rover from the 1970s that only weighs 4,000.
Yeah, it does lead to massive fuck you electric SUV bullshit, which is just apex.
We've been backwards and forwards about electric stuff since the pod started. I do feel like it's and partly what I wanted to do with this pod is document the rise of electric. So on that theme, I feel like we can, and this is meant to be like a year review. So let's review sort of state of the nation of EVs in 2025 or beginning of 2025. I think we can say that these big, heavy SUV things are just kind of the last century. They're just not really good design. And this next generation of EVs that are coming, where there's more emphasis on lightness and where we're doing better with battery design and where everyone's comfortable with regen one pedal braking. So I feel like, one pedal driving, you accelerate and you brake by modulating the same pedal. As we move towards that, I feel like, we talked before about the Citroën Ollie and the Citroën Ami, which are two sort of concept-y cars, that one of which, the Ami, made production, like city cars. Yeah, I feel like we can see now what EVs are going to be like and how we've carried a lot of the problems of vehicles of the last century forward into this new design.
Oh, agreed. Well, if you're going to have like electric small cars that produce no emissions at the point of use, makes a lot of sense. You can charge them up at home, which, admittedly, at least a third of the UK can't do because you have to run a cable across the pavement or things like that, or you're in a flat. So it's not for everyone. But yeah, I mean, that sort of thing, for local city runs, they're absolutely fabulous. That would be my first choice for that sort of stuff now. But that's not what people do. They get defensive. They want to have the same thing. They want to have no anxiety range. They want to have the kids in it. Therefore, they want to be up high because it makes them feel safer. Therefore, they need a bigger battery and they want some luxury. And therefore, they need a bigger battery. And then they want the heating on in the winter. So they need an even bigger battery. And the thing weighs 3 tons and is fucking 5 meters long. I mean, it's...
Yeah. And I tell you, you get addicted to the big gulp really quickly. I mean, I as I was doing a school run this morning in the tundra, passing the Fiesta parked up at the curb, not having moved for a week, I'm like, yeah, why am I using this, not that, for the school run here? Well, because I want the wide leather seat. I want the automatic transmission. I can't take the dog if I'm trying to change gear. So the Fiesta sits at the curb.
Yeah, but the problem with that is what you've just given me is a personal subjective justification for taking the mega machinery rather than the already too big machinery, because you're taking 3 spare seats and you only need to take your kid to school. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the problem just gets worse subjectively, and therefore the planet's going to burn. That's the nature of it, which is why governments try and call back in knobby ways.
Well, no, because bloody San Francisco has forced you to be progressive. They closed the Great Highway, which is my school run, which, for the record, I don't just use 4 times a day. I often use 6 or 8 times a day if I'm in and out on motorcycles as well, because it's there and back on the school run. That's the base for pick up and drop off. And then if I go out and do anything, just normal errands, not necessarily with a car. If I go out to the post office and then I ride a motorcycle, I'm going to have been up and down the Great Highway 8 times. And it's been closed and turned into a park. And it was voted on by a majority of 55% of the residents of San Francisco. In other words, the people living in the city, the 20-somethings, got a ballot that said, do you want a park in another part of the city that you can visit maybe once a month on the outside or not? And of course, those of us in the neighborhood were like, like up in arms, and everyone voted and, but no, we were outvoted by the people who's, I'm like, it's like, I feel like being like Marina Green, the Embarcadero. Let's turn them into a park. Why not? Thus on people on our side of the city wouldn't fuck up our lives, wouldn't fuck up our commute, would it? There's an article in the New York Times that talked about how this wasn't about the closure of a road. This was a debate between urbanite San Franciscans and suburbanite San Franciscans, and it showed how the city was changing. Meanwhile, it passed, but there's a move to remove the councilman who pushed it through in the district.
Yeah, people don't like to review mistakes.
Mark Gammie, my response to it is to try and get electric bikes. I've been looking at this Frigo mountain bike. It qualifies as a mountain bike. It's got pedals, but in an eco mode, it only does 28 miles an hour. But in like normal mode, it'll do 50 miles an hour.
I've tried one 50 mile an hour push bike. That's quite a lot because, are you going to remember to like put leathers on? No. But
no,
you want to have something on because like going down at 30 is pretty bad anyway.
Dude, I don't think I'm going to buy one.
Okay.
I keep looking at them. I don't think I'm going to buy one because I just can't see. Every time I see somebody on one, he's pulling a giant wheelie. It's almost always a he. Well, it's always a he, and he's always between the ages of like 15 and 20, right? And if you look at the reviews of electric bikes, the people are like on the sidewalk, off the sidewalk, whoa, I went a bit wide there, as they go completely wide on a T-junction in the way that I described happening with these bulb junctions in San Francisco. So, yeah. So anyway, so my response to the closure of the Great Highway is to be like, you know what? And similarly, I told you about these fucking cycling lanes. I'm like, all right, I'm going to get something where I can go in the cycling lanes. I'm not about fighting the system. I'm about, this is the mantra of the year. Dana's like, we have a mantra for each year. Last year it was try new things. This year it's go with the flow. So I'm just going with the flow. I'm not getting bent out of shape about sharing the road with no fucking cyclists. I'm not getting bent out of shape about that. No, I'm, taking my therapy dog with me and he's sitting on my lap so I don't have road rage.
Fair enough.
But look, right, we were talking about EV shit, right? Do you know these people at GridServe? The people who are like meant to be building like the network of charging stations in England?
No.
Oh, Gammie, this is epic. There's two brothers and they are called Toddington and Heston Harper.
Of course they are. Why wouldn't they be?
That's right. Their mum and dad named them after service stations. And now they're rolling out electric charging to those same service stations. Toddington and Heston Harper. You cannot make this shit up. If it was in a novel, it would feel like Catch-22, and you'd be like, where's Major Major? Remember in Catch-22? I feel it's like that.
Yeah. I'm just looking up how much they're charging, just to see. Yeah, it's like basically more expensive than gas.
Yeah, well, I'm not accusing Toddington and Heston Harper of anything here. I did just write down around this green snake oil salesman. I'm not accusing
Toddington and Heston Harper, and I'm not having it. I mean, look, to be fair to them, I did read an article, I think I might have mentioned it a while back, saying that, Exeter Services, which you and I both know well, was having to put in order to serve the expected usage of electric car charging stations at the services, they were going to need to put in a feed from the power station or the nearest put node into that was big enough to serve half the city. So it needed to be that amount of additional power to the service station just to provide for expected use as it goes forward. So I can understand if you've got to pay for that sort of infrastructure to put that sort of shit in place, you need to make your money back. Yeah, that's economics. That's how that shit works. And you'll put it in if there's demand for it. But that doesn't fly for the 1/3 of the people in the UK who can't charge at home. You ain't going to ever convince those people to move off of gas or diesel if it's more expensive to run and you have all the inconvenience of having to only find electric charging stations and it taking 20 minutes, even when that longer period is fixed, which it isn't yet. You ain't going to convince people like that. So it can't be like this, unfortunately. But I'm sure Toddington has got it in hand.
I think Toddington only gives a shit about feathering his own nest. Those kind of business people are usually like that.
Well,
I'm not disparaging Toddington or indeed Heston particularly.
No. Do you reckon that's why they were...
They have a sister called Strencham.
Or Union Street. Do you reckon it was... they were conceived in these service stations? Do you think that's what it is?
Dude, funny you should say that. Google up this woman, Chriselle Staus.
How am I spelling that?
Chriselle, like it sounds, Chris, Shell. This is the story.
Chriselle Staus.
S-T-A-U-S.
She looks American.
Oh, she is turbo-American. She's as American as a fucking red Camaro. Her mum went into labour in a Shell station, and the gas attendant, Chris, helped her mum give birth. Chris Shell, you see, he's clever like that.
That I wouldn't have got there. She's beating me already. I'm behind.
Yeah. She's one of the people who had to flee the Palisades fires, apparently. I learned this morning.
Well, yeah. I'll probably never look her up.
Record show that the bloke that bullied my wife in the office from his oak-panelled office in Pacific Palisades, let the record show that said fellow was at CES, flew to CES with a house, and came home from CES without a house or a wood-panelled office. And I don't want to say that there was a sense of karma for me, but there was. You know who you are, sir.
Life is filled with little ups and downs, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? And I feel bad for his family. He's got
for
kids,
sure.
He's got kids younger than the boy. Lord knows his wife has to put up with him all the time, not just some of the time like his work colleagues. So, guess she's probably got a shittier end of the stick than anybody, and now she's not even got a nice house. So,
Yep.
But so there's lots to be mad or sad about, but I'm not. I'm still really enjoying the motoring experience. And my next bullet point was that if this pod has a point, it is to go out and enjoy the open road while you still can.
Definitely.
And to that end, Mark Gammie, I have 2 quick fire questions for you. Here they come. What was your best drive of the year?
I think, to be honest, my best drive of the year was to and fro in Crete along the little mountain road, dodging the goats, having gone out and raided the local, I don't know what it actually, I keep wanting to call it a spa. I'm not sure it was a spa, but if you know it's spas in the UK, it had a very similar sort of independent co-op stroke spa kind of supermarket feel. But driving from the little villa we rented across to there and back, dodging the goats and the massive, massive comedy-style drop-offs off the edge of the road was the most memorable because it was just so beautiful and so quiet. And we drive along with the windows down and it being lovely and sunny. And then here and there, randomly on the radio, I think once we got a random AC/DC track on the radio and I was a very happy gentleman just toddling along at 35 or 40 miles an hour in the iGo.
That's, I think, episode 28, Cretinous Cars Sent from God. Thank you for that.
And yours?
My best drive of the year. I've got to say, the most memorable drive for me this year was after all the futzing around, not buying a Dually Ram and buying that Tundra. The whole week of that where I drove to Sacramento and back looking at one truck, which is just so fucking hot. This was a all black truck. And Gammie, when I tried to lie underneath this truck to see whether or not I'd been hit, the tarmac was too fucking hot for me to lie on. So I looked at that truck. And then the next day, I looked at this other one down in Clovis, the one that I bought. And then the day after that, so I bought it, stayed over, paid for it the next day, drove home. Then the next day, got up, got a trailer and drove back to Clovis to load the Mercedes up to drive home. And the most memorable part about that was obviously when you finally got it loaded up and, you know, the alarm's not going off. Because at first, every time I moved, the fucking movement alarm on the Mercedes went off. And Mercedes of that era, they've like a switch on the dash, and I just kept on forgetting to do the like towing switch, so the alarm didn't go off, like the alarm disabling thing. Anyway, so super memorable with it. Most memorable element of it was 152, which is like a big long climb. Like on the climb with the Mercedes on the back, dude, it just pulled fine. On the descent, it juggled gears and didn't need me to do anything at all. I didn't need to touch the brake. It just juggled gears without making the motor scream at all. And you're just like, wow.
Nice. Satisfactory.
Wow, this thing can, and it makes you think that you know you could load it up with shit. Like you could have 2 sports bikes on the back of it, and you could have a covered trailer with a race car in, and it would have no fucking problem. It would have no problem. The height alone means the sandy, loose surfaces, curbs, all of that. It can do that no problem in 2-wheel drive. There's never been a time where I've been like, oh, better engage 4-wheel drive. I've done like 2,000-3,000 miles now.
Cool.
Favorite car of the year?
Favorite car of the year?
My green Mustang. We went to Mexico, and I mean, it just reminds you how lucky you are to somewhere where you can have awesome cars.
Yeah. I would say, I've hardly driven it at all.
The time and a place point about the awesome cars as well, right? The all of the new ones, they're just so not desirable to me. They're just so not desirable to me. It's like now they're like, I'm not, you know, postman.
Well, he better defend you.
He is. The other day we were walking, he saw a postman on the street and he's like barking and straining on the leash and wanted to go fight him. He's funny with it.
Who is this motherfucker who keeps approaching and touching up the front door?
He's totally defending it. But you know, you can't knock him for it, right? We're walking on the beach, right? And there's this massive gas cylinder that's obviously fallen off a ship and washed up. It's got to be like 5 feet in diameter. And it's on the beach and it's rolling as the waves move. And as we approach it, he's cowering behind me. He's barking at it. He's like, he knows that is not a natural object and it shouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
So I pity these people stuck with front-wheel drive 4-cylinder things, and my Mustang's not the muscliest muscle car, and it's not the nicest muscle car, and it's not. Who cares, right? I love steak and eggs, and that's what that car is, and it's just brilliant.
Agreed. I mean,
so my neighbour just down the hill there, who we've become closer to, he let me have a go in his Ferrari 308 over the course of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, Mark, when I was talking with him before about it, I was talking about Testarossas with him, and he behaved as if I was talking about a completely different thing, as if I was talking about like a muscle car or something like that. It just wasn't in his. And I realised, I thought of that as I was driving that 308, because the most striking thing about it is that it's not a supercar, it's a sports car.
Yeah.
The feeling of all of the weight behind you and the only weight at the front being like, the lights and the brakes and a bit of tube frame, the front suspension, like that feeling, that's the most memorable thing about it and the coolest thing about it. The motor, because it's that flat plane, it sounds a bit like rough-D 4-cylinder. It sounds like rough-D 4-cylinder. Now, in the days where they used Ferrari 308s for rallying, you looked at that and thought, but it's like a beautiful supercar. That's not for rallying. An Escort's for rallying, not a supercar. But actually, it was totally for rallying. And actually, there is a lineage from the Lancia 037, well, from the Ferrari 308 to the 037, and then in turn to the 288 GTO. The three are all sort of the same mid-engined, rorty, light motor mounted in the middle, driving the rear wheels, and nothing else, hardly anything else. Like the rest is as minimalist as it can possibly be. And so immediately, right, I see why in Les's mind, Testarossas are something completely different. That's a big and heavy, and it's a proper Grand Tourer. Whereas the 308's nothing like that. It's like a little sports car. It's closer to a Caterham Super 7 than it is to a Testarossa. And I mean that in the nicest way, because, you are inside and it does have some leather and it can blow hot and cold, which, a Caterham can't do. So, it has a lot of really a cool experience.
I still like them. I think they look great.
They would not disappoint you. If you bought one, it would not disappoint you.
Yeah, Ferrari's that weird brand. I mean, you basically don't want one because they're too expensive to run. But there is a period, if you've got wherewithal, where, especially at the moment, where not that long after they've been out, obscenely cheap in comparison to what they cost initially.
Yeah, if you buy the right model,
you can buy £300,000 cars for like £80,000 like within 5 years, that sort of amount of depreciation. Yeah, everything's still going to absolutely wallet rape you whenever, anything goes wrong on it at all. But, there is an appeal to getting value for money in that way. I absolutely see it. And especially if you're picking up a V12 and things like that as well. But anything they produce and have produced for quite a long time is high quality stuff. And I trust the motoring journalists. I trust people like Chris Harris when they say, look, it still feels quite organic, even though you're conscious you're driving with AI-informed side slip control and TCS this and EBS this and all that sort of stuff. But I fundamentally don't want all that. And
I mean, spoiler alert, I drove a Basie Lucid recently, Lucid Air sedan, like a sub 50 grand one. I mean, it's still the best car in the world. I don't want one, but it's still objectively, and I defy you, Gammie, to sit in it and drive it and not be like, that thing drives fucking awesome. Like, it looks, the seat of the pants thing, it's every inch as good as the best Kraut V8 sedan.
I'm sure. But like, I don't want to pay 150 to 250 grand for someone to take most of the driving experience away. Or at least hide it behind electronics, when I don't need any of that.
I don't want to spend any money, no. And this brings me back to that green Mustang. That green Mustang has what the Lucid can sort of never have. There's a sort of organicness. There is an organicness. That is the right word for it. There's a sort of earthiness, which is missing.
Completely. I mean, and like, it's like, I don't mind a bit of technology. There's always going to be a technology creep. The Z's got traction control, like admittedly on and off, but I've got it. I deliberately bought that CBR because it was the first one that came with ABS on as standard on the CBR 600. And I don't regret it. It's nice to have that when you're riding home and it's about a splish of rain. And, it gives you that little bit of extra confidence on braking feel on the front end. There's nothing wrong with that. The more you layer on, it just dulls it for me. And when you take, you don't sort of necessarily notice it until either like the BMW, it's just been a bag of shit and not worked properly. But also more to the point, when you drive something that hasn't really got it, and you don't miss it. In fact, if anything, you prefer what you're getting in that organic sort of less is more style sort of way. I've come to the conclusion that I don't really want, I do want a big autobahn basher, some sort of middleweight Mercedes automatic gearbox thing for doing that sort of station run for driving international.
You don't need, with Mercedes and BMWs, you don't need to do like the AMG, like look at me, I'm the fast one. If you do like a Mercedes 500, like a remap and an exhaust, it's as good as an AMG car anyway.
Sure.
And you don't remap or exhaust. Or I tell you what I really would do, Gammie, is I think Lexus are doing better styling than any of the others now. I think the 350 sedan really looks good. The IS 350. I think the model that I'm really interested in was they did a model probably 10 years ago now, F version of the GS. So the mid-size sedan, like the E-Class size sedan, but with TRD, normally aspirated, 5-litre V8, 400 horse. And it has like, a little bit of body kit on it. But I love those because it's Toyota bulletproof. It's also JDM solid gold investable, and nobody bought them. Anybody you talk to who knows cars knows them, and they've come around for me with 3 or 4 different people, and I just know that they're like they're like the thinking man's E39 nowadays, because the E39 is all very well, but it's still a stick, right? And California, you don't want that. Dubai, you don't want that.
I mean, some of the jobs I've been advertising for recently, looking for recently, it's they're like 2 or 3 days on the road. No, I don't mind that. I get through a lot of audiobooks. I quite like to be on the road.
A diesel S-Class.
Well, it was interesting. Chris Harris did a video on the Alpine B, whatever it is, the diesel version of the 3 Series, and was like, look, it's an automatic, but it's got like 500 foot-pounds of torque and comfier suspension, and it's got all the toys and stuff. Now the issue with them is because of the limited numbers. Actually, they're that bit more expensive again. But it was like that sort of thing. I'm thinking, look, for doing motorway cruisy stuff, and for Angie going and picking her mum and dad up from the station with like suitcases and stuff. Automatic back doors so that a dad and mum can get in, because like they're getting old. They don't want to have to fucking have the Fiesta seat tipped forward and like crouch in through the you know what I mean. So I need something like that. But that means that once I've got that, everything else can be impractical.
Yeah, dude. It's like when I bought that Tundra, I said to Ollie, everything else can be fucking stupid from here on in.
That's how it's going to be. My first project is getting the Z going again properly.
Yeah, dude, you got to lean into that.
Yeah,
you got to lean into that. The way I think to see it is that there's like skills to learn, but once you've learned them, it's going to be easy. There's skills to learn and kit to buy in terms of jump packs and how to do a fluid change.
I bought some 3.5 ton like axle stands, and it's like nowhere near that. It's like less than half that. So I was like, okay, that's about the right sort of cover ratio I want. I've got a trolley jack and all that sort of stuff. So, but obviously it's Britain, so it's fucking freezing. So we haven't got some light back in the spring.
I'm not telling you to go out and do it now. I was watching Jeff buys cars, and he was at Strensham Services, and it was that kind of soupy rain where he was like, it's 11 o'clock in the morning, but it looked like it was about 6 o'clock in the morning and the sun was still struggling to come up. And I'm like, oh, yes, England in the winter. How I don't miss you.
No, definitely not worth missing. I hate it.
On the subject of Jeff buys cars and other silly automotive YouTubers, the reaction to the Jaguar rebrand. Now, position it, right? This is what I think is important and people aren't taking on board. In 1926, Henry Ford was at last persuaded by his son Edsel that the Model T, which was the most successful car in the world, more than 3/4 of the cars in the world were Model Ts, that this design, which had been in production for the last 20 years, was not the pinnacle of automotive design. And in fact, competitors had already stolen a march, and a new vehicle was needed to take on specifically Louis Chevrolet and Billy Durant and the GM brands. So Ford shut the whole factory for a year whilst they retooled for the Model A, the new Model A. And the Model A went into production in 1928, right? The point is that, like Jaguar, the whole factory went offline for a year to completely reposition what they're doing. And I think with Jaguar, what the fuck are Jaguar in this new EV world? Because Range Rover, they fit perfectly in this new EV world. But nobody buys cars anymore. Everyone buys SUVs. So, if I'm Tata, Jaguar needs to make a case for its survival. And if they're offline for a year, well, maybe they're never coming back. If you're going to do that, you need to have some kind of the splashiest marketing campaign you can possibly have. And I feel like that was probably the design brief. And that was definitely what was delivered, was this really shocking rebrand. Your thoughts?
The interesting thing for me, I mean, I've never owned a Jaguar. And now, would I own a Jaguar? Yeah, there are Jags I would buy, definitely. But is that very likely at the moment? No. And when it actually comes down to it, am I likely to shell out the dollars for it when there's comparable other stuff? Yeah, probably not.
You had that in the Scottish Highlands for a bit. Tell us about that.
Oh, that F-Type R, yeah. Two things about that stand out. One, when you get in and turn the ignition, the vents of the leather dash, the whole leather dash at the top bit underneath the screen rises up so that the air vents can appear, which is kind of theatre. And it sort of squeaks a bit because it's not fitted perfectly because it's leather as well, which is quite funny. And it's got a loud button for the exhaust. It opens valves or something, but basically it's always open when you turn the thing on because fuck the neighbours, and because if you have it on, if you forget when you've been driving through the country and you've been enjoying the exhaust and it popping and banging and all that sort of stuff, which it did with much gusto, when you then roll up to the traffic lights or the zebra crossing and you breathe on the throttle just to go the last couple of feet, and the old granny walking across carrying pulling her shopping along in one of those little tartan wheelie bag things, nearly shits herself because it goes bang, bang, bang and stuff. You went 2 miles an hour. So, and it had personality. Yeah, I liked it. And you could pick it up for not a ridiculous amount of money, given how much horse. I mean, it had 523 brake horsepower. It's a lot. And it revs out to 7,250, something like that. So
when we were in the Jaguar Daimler Heritage Trust, they had this XFR, the XFR version, which I think is the used bargain at the moment.
Yeah. That's the pick that you would look for now,
brand. 510 horsepower or something. A lot of them are white, believe it or not. Can you imagine the kind of person in Atlanta who's buying a white one? Anyway. Point I was going to make about this XFR was they took it out to Bonneville. They didn't make any changes to the engine. They just de-restricted it. Then they lowered it, put some aero on it. Fucking thing went 206 miles an hour.
Yeah, I can believe it. It's a powerful lump. And look, that was a cracking car. I really enjoyed it. When we went to Sky in it, and I'm sure I've said on the pod before, how I booked a 3.5 litre V6 And when I arrived, good guy checked me into the vehicle, took me out to the vehicle. And as we were approaching, I'm looking at it going, that's not a V6. That's not a V6. It's got quad pipes out the back. That's a fuck. So anyway, we got in the thing and drove away. And Angie said to me, like, it's quite loud, isn't it? I said, yeah, it's the wrong car. Don't accept any phone calls for the next hour until we're out of mobile cell coverage, because this is not what we booked. And I had a weekend on Sky, and it was amazing. But it was a bit rainy. But like, it gripped like shit to a blanket, even in the rain. And it had that sort of, you could make gangster progress never going above 5,000, 5,200 revs. So when you really pressed on into the sort of 5 to 7,500 revs, like, holy shitballs, was you really motoring? You were really shifting at that point. So, look, I mean, I like Jaguar products, yeah, especially when they've got their sort of joie de vivre going on. I think the interesting thing from a sort of macro perspective, zooming out again from their rebrand, is that there's lots of ways to do a wacky rebrand. Not wacky, but you know what I mean, to do a sort of an out there rebrand. There's lots of ways. You can make it funny. You can make it sort of shocking artistically. You can do art car style BMW takes on things. There's all sorts of different things you could do. And there's two sides to it, I think. There's the model car that they produced, which is, you know, big bonnet, sort of looked like something out of like Batman's fucking Gotham City. Really long bonnet, really high grille. Why? I sort of get the sort of heritage. I want to look cool and that sort of thing and have road presence. Got spades of that. But part of the benefit of having an electric vehicle is it's all under the floor, isn't it? So you can have more usable space. Why have you got a massive bonnet? What's that going to be?
The challenge with this whole, what's the point of Jaguar? Right?
Yeah. Like, what's that going to be? A sort of huge trunk or something? You can have a pool in there? I mean, if it's got a pool in there, I'm back on. So there's that sort of things. And then there's the sort of, if you look at the sort of the rise of populism, and without going into get too political, that sort of movement against climate change and wokery and diversity and being nice to people, leaning into sort of a bunch of sort of albino Teletubby weirdos to be like the people wandering out in neon colours to your fucking weird tune with the car in the background. Like, it's on. And also, can I just say, I think I mentioned to you in the email about it when I sent the link across, and I made a comment and no one really understood what I'd said on the bottom of Harry's garage video. When you see that car inverted, when you see it mirror imaged, the two J's on the logo on the wheels are flipped, so it says 69. So on the front and back wheels, when you look at it flipped in the pictures, and it is on the image of Harry's garage's review of the where day you went to the factory, it's basically you're rolling past, and you'll see that from the inside of the car. Whenever you see it in like glass fronting windows kind of thing, you're going to get the mirror image version, aren't you? Yeah. I think. So therefore, you're going to be 69ing all the way down the highway. You're massive bit. Anyway, made me smile.
They have to do something, don't they?
They do. I mean, I'm not sure that's going to save the company. And I saw, again, those collecting cars, old fuddy-duddies, talking about it. And one of the guys was saying, like, look, I've owned multiple Jaguars, and it sort of feels like they're saying, we don't want your custom again. And that's a bold strategy. That is a bold strategy when you haven't really established a new market to go, we don't want the old one.
But I think the point is that there's not enough of those other people, and too many of those people. And that person who's like, oh, you know, you've lost me as a customer, they're still likely to buy a Rangy. There's nothing else.
Yeah, dude, absolutely.
I drove a Rangy recently, and it was the most expensive car I drove of these like 20 cars I drove back to back. Dude, it was really a thing. I didn't expect to be like, oh, wow, this Rangy's a thing. I literally drove it for a bit, got out and walked around it and thought, Jesus, am I a farmer? It's like, and after I drove it, that's the first time I've ever found myself thinking I might actually like a Range Rover as a a Beetle.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why Clarkson loves his Range Rover, Harry Metcalf loves his Range Rover, and there's a sort of executive premium feel to them that people like.
Yeah, I mean the leather in this one that I test drove was just on another level. It had 5 driving modes. Only one of them was on road. There's no stupid performance mode or, hot.
Range Rover, was it Discovery? I can't remember which one. No, I think it's Range Rover they both got, isn't it? I'll make sure I'm right on that one. Can't remember. Whatever. Yeah, again, I struggle with the whole thing. I just find it a bit like, I don't want it. It's too big. What the fuck is it for?
Google this one. Bentley perfume.
Oh, is it actually perfume? Or is it a car? Oh, for fuck's sake. It's eau de toilette.
What's the reaction I was looking for? Is this something that you as a guy buy for your girl, wife, significant other? I met a bloke from Bentley recently, and he was saying he does interior design. And he said, these people from product are like coming to me with this vegan leather. And what's that, vinyl? And he went, well, no, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm
again, if the leather's good enough, don't kill the cow. I don't care.
And I'm looking doubtful, and I'm like, and he's like, it's all right. You don't need to try not to be negative. Can you imagine what the Russian billionaires would say if we tried to sell them Bentleys with vegan leather?
Yeah, that wouldn't go a long way, would it?
That's the challenge, right? That's the challenge. There's a real challenge around modernizing these old brands.
Well, of course, what he means, just to be clear, in life, safe with the legal people, is Kazakhstani billionaires who definitely aren't going to then sell it on to the Russian billionaires because they're not actually supposed to be selling to Russian billionaires because they're a warmongering bunch of cunts. So they have to get around these things by selling them to people who are totally unrelated, and demand's gone massively through the roof in these old Soviet states. So, but that's incidental. It's just a coincidence that the Russian demand seems to have migrated about 500 miles off the border, and then they mysteriously don't have a life in Kazakhstan anymore. I mean, that's just a coincidence.
Interesting, Gammie. Interesting aside, that one. Dana's German friends came and visited over the summer. They had this GMC Denali. It was like a late model GMC Denali. So like a gussied up Tahoe. Obviously, for European roads, absolutely bloody ridiculous. But for American roads, oh, dude, what a vehicle. Directly related to the conversation we were just having about the Range Rover. Because this is a vehicle which is about 2/3 the price of the Rangey, less obviously if you buy a used one, but it has all of the things that were cool about the Rangey, but it will go on forever and ever and ever and can be fixed at every Chevy dealership, unlike the Rangey. A lot to be said for that kind of vehicle in America.
Indeed, yeah. I'm going to get rid of the absolute eau de parfum now from my...
Yeah. Some months ago, we had an exchange about a piece of journalism that I've lost, and I don't want to throw the journalist under the bus, so it doesn't matter. But it was a piece talking about Seat Leon Cupras. And I was reminded of Cupras because this Cupra brand, as it's now a standalone brand, John Garcia's rental car in Ireland was a Cupra, not a Seat. When I was like, was it a Seat? He was like, no, it was a Cupra, whatever that is. Yeah, it's like its own brand now. And you had those two Cupras back to back. I mean, I always felt at the time they looked better than Golf GTIs.
Yeah.
You felt, well, I'm going to ask your opinions in a minute, but what this bullet point is, Cupras versus Golf versus whippersnapper writers. And this is really the point that I'm making, is the bloke that wrote that article was some young whippersnapper. He wasn't some 50-year-old bloke who caned about 150,000 miles on two Cupras and drove a bunch of Golfs in period as well. So have the floor. Are the Cupras better? I know the answer.
Yeah, of course. I mean, to be fair to the dude, like, you're absolutely right. He was a young chap. I can't remember what it was, Road or Track or something, but it wasn't an article about the Cupra. It was an article about the period Golf GTI. It was an article about the period Golf GTI, that 130 horsepower baggy sack of shit that didn't deserve to wear GTI badge, that Golf GTI. And he was saying how he'd driven it again, like as if he drove it the first time. There wasn't an itch in the milkman's ball bag at the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, not alive. He was so he'd driven it, and he was like, look, it's quite good, it's quite snappy. And like, look, okay, compared to this, the standard 80 horsepower, 90 horsepower Golf, yeah. But my point was, what the hell is this bloke talking about on an hour? And I can't remember if it was, I only read a couple of like US motoring websites, so it would have been like Road and Track, or it would have been maybe the Ars Technica cars section, or it would have been maybe one of the other ones. The one that Victoria Beaver writes for. No, she writes for Road and Track, doesn't she? But anyway, there's another US one that I sometimes read. But nevertheless, it was pointing out that if you compare the two, they were available at the same period, and they were shockingly different. There were two versions of the Cupra in my period. There was the 180 horsepower Cupra in the original version, and then there was the 210 horsepower Cupra R, and they had a different body kit. And the Cupra looked like better than the standard Leon anyway. And then when you put the Cupra R body kit on, I mean, it's really like a David Coulthard chin spoiler and all sorts of aggro wheel arch blistering and all sorts of cheese. And like a big ass central exhaust at the back and things like that. A big ass exhaust pipe that was 2-in-1 at the back. It sounded mean, it looked mean, and it was aggressive. My boss once came in with it with me after not long after I'd got it, and I went. There was a sort of a sort of slight riffle in the road, and it banged over it because it was its high suspension. And he was like, "Bloody hell, what do we do? Just run over a fox or something?" It was probably a 50p sized indentation on the road. So you did have to put up with some discomfort for your pleasure. But I lent it to my mate to drive it down to Le Mans. The first one I got was a wangled company car. And then the second one, I bought my own one when it came out with the 225 horsepower one, because there was still nothing in that space to compete with it for sort of looks or usable VAG group performance and reliability with 4 seats and a decent sized boot and that looked great. I had more punctures in that car, I think, than any other car ever, because it was on 18-inch wheels with fairly low profile rubber on there. And it was Pirelli P0 Rossos when it came as standard. And I went through to the canvas on the fronts on those in 6,500 miles on the first set. So I agreed with my sales manager that they wouldn't be put back on it and that I would get like Goodyear Pilot Sport Cups or something like that instead, which would make 15,000 miles on the fronts and therefore wouldn't cause issues with HR. But my original point, again, zooming back out to the macro level, I think we like to be sweeping. It was a sensational car in period, and the Golf was an embarrassment in the range. It was the absolute nadir of Golf. After that, they had the sort of different letters with different horsepowers, and one of them had 180 horsepower, vaguely getting back up to speed. But it wasn't until the one with those sort of pepper potty sort of alloys that came out with the white one with a little bit of lipstick underneath the spoiler, underneath the sort of the grille. It wasn't until that one where they went to 210 horsepower in a proper 6-speed box that the GTI was sort of dug back out from its death that it was going through for the previous decade plus. And so therefore, to write an article eulogizing essentially a piece of shit on the brand logo felt to me like you were celebrating failure. Whereas within the same group, there was another part on the same platform with the same chassis, fundamentally the same company, producing something dynamically completely different and way more purposeful. As I was saying, like I lent it to Stuart going out of Le Mans. He chased his mate in an M3, and his mate in the M3 couldn't lose him. He rang me up slightly worse for, let's call it alcohol, later on that evening, telling me in no uncertain terms about how amazing it was, and he couldn't believe that the two things were produced within ostensibly the same building.
Gammie, is that guy the TVR guy?
Yeah.
He does kind of owe you a beer, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, it was a company car, but I had to lie.
I just feel like if you were, I might edit this bit out, I just feel like if you were going to make money flipping cars on the 25-year rule, TVRs will be the way to do it. And the place to buy them is England, and the way to do it with somebody who knows the cars really well. And what you need to make a business like that work is people in England and people in America. And, I feel like there might be a kind of business opportunity there.
I could find out from him. I could have a chat. I could meet him for a beer at some point and have a chat with him and say, because he knows all the garages and knows the people.
It's more that you make it worth his while to go look at cars. I would if I came to England, or if you were looking at cars and we were going to split whatever money we might make from flipping it or something like that, or I was going to pay you for your time to go look at it or something like that, which that I have to do the maths on that to see what it would work, what I could actually, where if the car was landed here in California and if I was able to, because for me, the only time I know the real cost of it is when I'm landed here with it, I can drive it around a little bit and give it to Jon to sell. That's the
No, absolutely. I mean, look, there's definitely expertise there.
Awesome.
Hypothetical scenario.
I've retired to Santa Barbara. I'm considering getting a douche car. That was how he described it, a douche car. I can tell you what he was considering, if you like. I was going to ask you what you would do for your douche car for rolling around Santa Barbara, so it's lovely weather, to the country club, bit of school runnage, just for like bit of beachage, bit of to the supermarket, where you have to fit in a normal car park, but like, so would you want to think on it, and then I'll tell you what I would do in a minute.
Yeah, all right. But to answer your question, I would probably just get something like a nice Mustang GT Cabrio, because then you can roll around like 4 seats. You can have the roof down. It's nice. You got 400 plus horsepower. It's nice and cheap. It's fairly low key. There's a lot of them about. You can get a nice one. Get all the toys in it. It's not that much money, and you can do burnouts and stuff.
You just do like a modern. Go down the local Ford dealership and find a loaded convertible 5.0.
Yeah. Having driven that a lot around America, different versions of it, it's anonymous enough, but people who know go, oh, yeah, that's the nice version. It's fun enough, and it's got enough toys. But, the key thing for someone like that with a lot of money is it's anonymous enough. And it's fun, you could rev the nuts out of it. It sounds good, and you can do, like, burnouts and stuff. And also, if you want to upgrade it, you can put all the bits from the GT350 on it if you want to, and, like, no one need know.
Yeah, you're right. There's so many colour combinations where you could really do a good colour.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
Distinct colour.
Yeah. Again, as soon as you lean that way, you're more noticeable. Because, the nice alloys that I did on the M2, you're more noticeable. People notice the car more. It looks cooler, but do you want to be more noticeable? I think rolling around in California is pretty non-noticeable. But as soon as you're rolling around in the slightly more Trumpy areas, it's a bit more noticeable. So, do you know what I mean? It depends.
Yeah, no, I do know. I do know exactly what you mean. My douche car, I would do a mid-60s Cadillac convertible.
I like the way we both went ragtop, though.
Yellow, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Santa Barbara. You've got to go ragtop.
That's what I thought. You've got to lean into it,
Yeah. I mean, and I love those stack headlight. I love stack headlights, period. I love pair of headlights. Love stack. Those mid-60s Cadillacs, they're just awesome.
Does he want reliability? I'm not suggesting it wouldn't be. I'm just saying, but you'd have to make sure it was. But does he want classic car ownership? That's why.
No, he doesn't.
No, that's why I went for the less than 5 years old Mustang GT with all the toys. Because
I know, and I'm sad. It's sad to say that I think the issue with that would be the image associated with Mustangs.
But I think in America, it's kind of anonymous.
Oh, it's completely. That's why you're so right to say that the right Mustang would really be a great car for him. 400
horsepower is a lot. I've raced that thing up and down mountains and through many a national park in America, and had a whale of a time. The standing joke with Angie and I is that we went up to Mount Hood, I think it was, like just above the Colorado River, and before we left the motel, we'd like booked on Hotels.com. At about 3 PM as we were driving down the river, like she checked with the restaurant to say when are you stop serving food, and she was like, oh, well, like at 8:30 or something, and it was like 6 o'clock. I'm like, well, I want to go and drive up the mountain. It's a nice sunset coming on due and stuff. Let's go and drive up the mountain. And of course, you drive up into the national parks at that time of day, everyone's going the other way, so you've got the road to yourself. So you've got some probably really quite nicely maintained asphalt by the National Park Service. Tip of the cap to those boys and girls. A lovely time of day, golden sunlight and stuff, and there's nobody going your way, so you can absolutely spank the Stang up and down. Yeah, it's great fun. It really lends itself to those sort of things. But again, when it's there hot and ticking over and pinging in the car park and the brake discs are smelling a bit, it's just a guy who likes driving his Stang. When we drove the Stang back through Napa from that vineyard that we did the wine tasting at, I've done that road multiple times because it's really good and fun and twisty. And it really actually showed why you want the GT, not the 4-cylinder, because I had that red 4-cylinder that year. and the bumps and humps really upset the suspension on it when you were pushing on. I was one of those ones. I said to Angie at one point, I'm going to stop driving this car so fast because he doesn't like it on these roads. It just got too unsettled and just too out of like jaloped about a bit. But the GT ate it up. Absolutely loved it. My point is, 3 times people saw me approaching at high speed in the rearview mirror and just indicated and let me go by. He's just a boy in his Mustang. Most of them had Mustangs, wanted a Mustang. Oh, my mate's got a Mustang. The attitude of the road user is, oh, yeah, you go and overtake and enjoy your afternoon driving your Mustang. Or at least it seemed to me as a white bloke in a Mustang with a white wife. So let's caveat it that way. But in the areas he's going to be driving in, if he gets a bit enthusiastic and overtakes people, they're less likely to call the cops for you in your Subaru or whatever shit that might be imported, especially these days.
He was thinking about Maseratis, like a Maserati convertible.
A Grand Coupe? No, not a Grand Coupe. The Quattroporte.
No, a convertible one. Is it a Grand Coupe or a Grand whatever?
They're old, though, now.
Well, I know, but like...
They also only did paddle shifts, if I recollect. They might have done autos for the US.
That's
I know that's immaterial. That's me thinking about you and me owning it, not about him owning it. But I'm just saying, for the record...
This is why the whole question of what would you do? Like, yeah, my Cadillac could get fuel vaporization, but I wouldn't let that put me off it, would I? I'd still have it.
No, I'm just saying, like, for that, I think as a sort of Swiss Army knife, because he says that, like, I want low.
The right Mustang's really, really good.
You get a nice, like, dark green one. You can even get some sort of nice coppery alloys or something like that on there.
Yeah, you really could.
Yeah. And if you wanted to give it the old like snap, crackle and pop, then just put like the full ACA system or something like that on the back.
Yeah, well, all of that, the stuff you can order straight from the Ford dealership, which would work for him. The other thing is that it would feel very well priced in comparison to the normal stuff.
I mean, can I have a cut of the $100,000 we've just saved him by not buying the Maserati?
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, it's each to their own, isn't it? But I think driving the M2 through little poor French villages, sometimes you were like, it's just a little bit loud and a little bit sort of like, drawing the eye of the local youth, and you don't always want that. You often want to just roll through town. And it's quite nice when, you're rolling. I was rolling out of a car park one day in the Mustang, and I had the webcam, the GoPro, like, stuck to the windscreen. And so Angie said she heard a little boy asking his dad, like, what's that on the car, Daddy? And he was like, oh, it's a camera, son. He's like, filming it. He's out to drive in his Mustang. He's like, yeah, cool. Like, yeah. It is cool, kid. It's good fun, but it's not ostentatious.
So you mentioned the M2. Let's do a little fleet updater, and let's begin with that M2. So I've a load of like quick fiery things that will cover everything about the car. What was the best thing about that M2, Gammie? What year is it? 2016?
Yeah.
What's the best thing about it?
It's difficult for me to judge, to be honest, because it's been such an absolute nightmare of an ownership proposition. Everything about it's been awful. The only thing that was good about it was the first 2 weeks where we drove it down and had a good fun in it around France before all the random things that were wrong with it and like just ruined the ownership experience for me. And I've barely driven it in the last 12 months. So next up is get it on the road and sorted and gone. But as fundamentally, when I was pushing it around the Pyrenees, it was good fun. But even then, early doors, it's like, okay, they just overloaded the aircon. That's why there was vapor coming out, and within a week, it's not like pushing aircon, right? So why have they done that? You look it up on your phone in the hotel that evening, because it's too expensive to replace the AC, and AC won't be covered on the warranty they sold you, and on and on and on and on and on. The whole thing has become just a pain point. I don't even think about it anymore. It's been so awful.
It's less about, but really, that's less about the
fundamentals of the car. It's a nice car,
and more about the particular car you had and the way it was prepared. Is that fair?
Probably, I've just been extremely unlucky on all fronts. But the dealership didn't do a good job. They bodged a car and sold it to me while my wife had cancer, so I wasn't really able to address it. And I was back and forth to the hospital, didn't have a lot of time to be going over there and chasing them up and arguing with them about stuff. And it sat off the road for quite some time. So by the time it's, you're getting around to re-looking at it again, it's beyond the 3-month initial warranty. And you try and use the other warranty that they sold you, and we don't cover that and we don't cover that. So I was never able to really get to grips with fixing it and fundamentally addressing all of the things that were wrong with it. Is it, as a platform, fun and usable? Yeah, it absolutely is. It's a nice little car. It feels dynamically poised. Probably more power than you need, if I'm honest. And it's only 375, but it did really start to open my eyes to the fact that how much do you need? Because I don't want to be driving so fast that you're in license losing territory every time you breathe on the throttle. Anything above the sort of Z level horsepower, you sort of are. So you can go and hustle through B roads and C roads and things like that, and have your own little bits where there won't be people at times of day and have a great time in your car. But that, in those terms, you're hardly ever doing more than 70 or 80 miles an hour at max, because to be a C road, they're small. They're cambered. It's probably like one or lane with passing places, one lane, that sort of road. So you're not doing a ton plus. I don't want to be doing that sort of speed. Unless you're going to take it on track, I don't see the point in it at that point. And most people don't take it on track in the way that most GSs never go off-road. It's one of those things. So at some point, it becomes a numbers game and dick measuring and top trump heights and speeds and feeds, and actually less about the fundamentals of enjoying your morning drive on a Saturday. And so it sort of cemented my view that the technology has ceased to enhance for me and has sort of started to dull the experience. So the last car I'm really interested in driving is that Toyota Yaris GR. But again, you're back to hot hatches and a little rally spec hot hatch with proper four-wheel drive and no usable rear seats, and because the roofs is custom and snakes down, so it used to have headroom in the standard Yaris, but not anymore. But again, where's the technology gone there? Into a tricky dicky WRC thinking four-wheel drive system, not into lane assist and 8 levels of traction control and 8 levels of all these. That's too much. I don't know. It's a sort of been an interesting car to own it. I really wanted to own BMW. It sort of put me off BMW, and I'm trying not to let it do that because I feel that's a bit unfair to the brand. But I certainly will be getting a Mercedes instead as the cruiser car, because I'd like to try them out and I think it also fits their sort of brand ethos a bit better anyway. So yeah, it's been a bit of a poison pill.
How many miles you doing it?
Oh, this last year, hardly any, I think less than 500. Just don't want to drive it. It makes me miserable. Everything about it's been awful.
This is not a long diatribe. Just do the bullet points. What has actually gone wrong on it?
So there's a problem with the brakes, which I suspect was because it was either tracked. But anyway, there's a problem with the brakes, and they've never addressed it. There was a problem with the reversing beeping. That came and went, and then you turn the car on and start reversing, and then it wouldn't stop beeping until you turn the car off again. That sort of thing, which is a bit inconvenient if you're doing a 3-point turn in the road and you have to get out of where you've got to, that sort of thing. Then it had a very expensive service, which cost a whole load of things. They did the wheels, but they didn't do it properly, so they didn't undercoat it properly. So when you got a scuff on the wheels, you couldn't repair that color to the right color. You had to have to get all the wheels redone again. The problem with reversing turned into a problem with the amp because someone had gone in and broken the stop-start on it to turn that permanently off. But the box you need to go into to electronically hack into that CPU, they hadn't fixed it properly back down, so rain got into it and destroyed the amp. So that meant that for about a month, whenever you drove it, at random points, it would just start playing screeching noise at about 120 decibels in the car, and you couldn't stop it until you stopped the car and turned it off. And sometimes it would come back, and sometimes it wouldn't. So in order to get that fixed, they've had to just disconnect all of the sat nav. Oh, the sat nav! I bought the upgraded sat nav, and it wouldn't load. So I paid 300 quid for that. It's never gone onto the car. I'm forgetting stuff, but you get the idea.
I had as bullets, what should potential buyers know and would you recommend? But I don't think we need to go there, do we? I think we could just move straight on to your Nissan 350Z.
Yeah. So the Nissan, the biggest complaint about the Nissan is getting spare parts. That's it. I love that car. It's amazing. It's the best car I've ever bought. I bought it with 4,000 miles. It's got 179,000 miles on it now. I'll die owning it. It's amazing. It's at that age now when you get it running, you get an MOT and you drive it for a bit, it goes back in the garage, and then you notice that something else was broken on it. And you then spend the time ordering that part and fixing that part and then using it for a bit again. But my idea is to just force myself to bite the bullet of 6 months of annoying that shit and just use it a bunch more regularly. So then split driving between it as the weekend car and this Mercedes usable everyday car as the tootle around journeys stuff. And then more bikes.
More bikes. It's music to my ears, Mark Gammie. Both of us have Fiesta STs. Both of us love them.
Yep.
You've used yours much this last year, or your wife's, I should say?
Loads, because I haven't been driving the BMW. It's the car I've driven the most. It's amazing. We had the full system put on this year. Well, from the catback system, the aftermarket system put on there. Love it. Does change the sort of tone a little bit. It means that we're driving on the motorway at sort of 75-ish. You sort of want to be doing 80-ish because it's a little bit drony. But other than that, added a little bit of punch, and it sort of prepares the car for the high-performance cat and chipping from the same company next time it needs those bits. I love it. It's an amazing car.
All right, Mark, as a final quick fire here, what is your top motoring tip for 2025?
Top motoring tip for 2025.
I don't really have one either. We can.
I'll give you two. So if you're going to be traveling abroad, do like 2 minutes of Googling on where you're going, just so you know when people are randomly driving over the hard shoulder and things like that, what they're up to. Because there might be a method to their madness that's a local custom kind of thing. And two, I saw on that geezer on Bike World who did that rally thing, he said that he'd spoken to Simon Pavey, the Dakar rider, and does that BMW off-road skills course. I think that's him. And he'd put some insulating tape just around the front brake lever and clutch lever on his motorbike whenever he's doing cold, wintry things off-road, so that if you've got your finger on the brakes or two fingers on the brakes, you're not onto the metal, you're onto this insulating tape, and it keeps your hands a load warmer, which I thought that was a really useful tip, especially if, as he was doing this rally thing, it's like 1 degree and it's like brass monkeys, then anything to keep your mitts a bit warmer was definitely a good thing.
I'm trying to think of any of my top motoring tip. I guess the thing on my mind is beware the ethanol fuel.
Oh shit! Yeah.
I mean, I'm on the K5 the other day, meant to just go around the block, but ended up going up the hill. Anyway, I split a couple of cars, and as it came into the power band, it choked on a load of bad fuel, which put the shit up me and made me think really that this bad fuel thing is not just inconvenient; it's actually kind of dangerous. So
for sure,
get thee gone fucking ethanol fuel. There's this stuff you can buy for storing, farm equipment, or like your ride-on mower or your strimmer or something like that, called True Fuel, that you can get from the hardware store. So it's 92 octane, so it's not race fuel. Nice. But the bikes don't know the difference. So I've got a pump, and I'm going to try and empty out the ones that have got remain fuel.
Yeah, definitely. Again, Harry did his roundup of it. Was it the Countach or one of his Exoticas where it had got water into the fuel system and it had like ruined it? Well, it might have been his 930 Turbo, and it was, I can't remember exactly how it happened, but there was a science bit like in the L'Oreal ads, but it was the ethanol fuel that had sort of sucked some of this shit out when it had been sitting, absorbed water, and it had got into the system and then rusted a lot of stuff.
It is absolute poison. It really is. And at first I couldn't come up with a plan for how to get off it and how to get onto something else and what I was going to do. I think what my new policy is going to be, and this is, for anybody who's got motorcycles or even classic cars, is exactly how much gas is in the tank. And when it's empty and you're parking it up, you put True Fuel in it. If there is remaining gas in it, you put that stable stuff in it. So you have something to stop it from going bad, but you also have as much True Fuel or as much like storage fuel, decent fuel that's not got ethanol in, and so, but you don't want to be pouring a full can of loads of True Fuel in because it's so bloody expensive. So that's not realistic. So for me, what I've decided I'm going to have to do is the beginning of any ride that I do is to the gas station, and at the gas station I put in however much gas I'm going to burn about on that ride. So if I'm going to go a short distance, I put a little bit in. If I'm going to go further, I put more in. And the idea is when you get home, you step off the bike, you put stable in. I have fuel system cleaner stuff to try and degunk the ones that have got gunked up, and that's a whole separate kind of story, but that's how I'm going to be doing it.
I remember what the science bit was now. The science bit was he'd gone to a garage that was a bit in the middle of nowhere and bought like high octane fuel, the like super unleaded or whatever, the best thing he could get. But when they did the sort of the reverse diagnostics, they thought that it was probably because that garage doesn't sell much high octane gas because it's in the middle of nowhere, and therefore it sits around in the gas tank, in the underground storage tank for a long time. And that if it's there and doesn't turn over, it will absorb water. So it ended up with like 4% water content or something like that, and that's what had fucked the internals on the Porsche. So you're going to have to buy it and leave it in the car. Buy it from somewhere where it turns over regularly in a busy in a busy turn.
And it's also, I was thinking this when you were talking about your 350, is they don't like sitting really. And no. I think if you were to start using it really regularly to like, my stuff, I am not, I'm very hypocritical as I say this, but if you use the stuff regularly, it's not that it doesn't need stuff. It's that the stuff it needs is different. Like a car in service is different from some fucking thing that's been sitting for ages. Mark, thank you for your time today.
Pleasure, bro.
This episode has been brought to you by Grand Touring Motorsports as part of our Motoring Podcast Network. For more episodes like this, tune in each week for more exciting and educational content from organizations like the Exotic Car Marketplace, the Motoring Historian, Break Fix, and many others. If you'd like to support Grand Touring Motorsports and the Motoring Podcast Network, sign up for one of our many sponsorship tiers at www.patreon.com/GT Motorsports. Please note that the content, opinions, and materials presented and expressed in this episode are those of its creator, and this episode has been published with their consent. If you have any inquiries about this program, please contact the creators of this episode via email or social media as mentioned in the episode.